Living for the judgment of others is to build an invisible prison for yourself.
Your thoughts are seeds. Choose wisely what you plant in your mental garden.
You are like a tree. You don't need to worry about what others think to grow.
The judgment of others is merely a reflection of their own insecurities.
Hello, welcome. I am Ruby and Oliver, and today I have the honor of moderating an extraordinary debate between two of the brightest minds in spirituality, Jiddu Krishnamurti and Yogananda. It is a great pleasure to have these two references of spiritual thought with us, who dedicated their lives to the deep understanding of the human mind and consciousness. Today we will dive into a fascinating and urgent topic, the terrible nature of the mind, why we are judged by what we think and say. In a world where social media amplifies judgments and social anxiety is on the rise, understanding how our mind works and how we can free ourselves from limiting mental patterns has never been more important. During our conversation, we will explore how to free ourselves from the vicious cycle of judgments and self-judgments, the role of meditation in transforming our relationship with the mind, practical tools to develop a freer and more conscious mind. Let's start with a fundamental question that touches us all. Krishnamurti, will we be eternally prisoners of others' judgments? Or is there a path to true mental freedom?
Rubian, true mental freedom is an inner journey that is independent of external opinions. When we become prisoners of others' judgments, we allow our minds to be shaped by expectations that are not ours, creating a vicious cycle of comparison and insecurity. Observe a tree. It does not worry about what other trees think or do. It simply grows at its own pace, blooms, and bears fruit naturally. Our minds need to function in the same way. By letting go of others' interests and opinions, we begin to see our true essence. Freedom arises when we abandon the need for approval and the traps of comparison. Meditation offers us this sacred space of self-observation without judgments, allowing the mind to quiet down and focus on what truly matters, our own life experience. The ultimate liberation happens when we realize that, most of the time, we are trapped in our own perceptions and fears, not in the opinions of others. The path to true mental freedom is a process of self-knowledge and a return to the innocence that resides in each of us.
What a profound perspective, Krishnamurti. This analogy of the tree really makes us reflect. Yogananda, I would like to hear your view on this same question. How can we free ourselves from the prison of others' judgments?
You see, Rubian, mental freedom is a quest that goes far beyond external opinions. Living for the judgment of others is like being in a cage, where each opinion becomes a new bar that prevents us from taking flight. Imagine yourself in a dense forest, filled with paths. Each external opinion is a trail that can divert us from our true destination. To find our authentic route, we need to learn to listen to our inner voice, the one that echoes in the depths of our being. Meditation allows us this intimate connection, silencing external noise and tuning us into our inner wisdom. It is natural to feel affected by the gaze of others. In my own journey, the experience of my mother's death taught me about the transience of life and how external opinions become insignificant in the face of true spiritual revelations. True mental freedom is an inner achievement, a conscious choice to seek what genuinely nourishes us and helps us grow, regardless of criticism. On the path of spirituality and self-knowledge, we gradually free ourselves from these shackles and find peace in accepting our true selves.
It's impressive how both perspectives complement each other. While Krishnamurti brings us the wisdom of nature through the tree that grows freely, Yogananda guides us through a forest of self-discovery. I learned that true freedom is not about controlling what others think, but reconnecting with our deepest essence. Now let's explore more about this in our next question. Now let's explore an intriguing question that affects our inner journey. Krishnamurti, is the mind our ally or our worst enemy in the quest for happiness and personal fulfillment?
Rubian, this is a fascinating question that touches the essence of our human experience. The mind is like a sophisticated instrument that can create both a harmonious symphony and a disturbing cacophony in our lives. When we operate with clarity and authentic understanding, it becomes a powerful tool for transformation. Think of the mind as a river. When it flows naturally, its waters nourish and renew everything around it. However, when blocked or turbulent, it can cause destruction. Our thoughts, when not properly understood, can turn into violent currents that drag us away from our true nature. The mind has this natural tendency to seek security and comfort, creating patterns that seem to protect us but often end up imprisoning us. It's like building walls that, while making us feel safe, also prevent us from experiencing the vastness of life. The key is to develop a conscious relationship with the mind, observing its patterns without judgment. When we become attentive witnesses to its functioning, it naturally transforms into our ally on the journey of self-knowledge.
Yogananda, how do you see this duality of the mind in our pursuit of happiness and fulfillment?
Rubian, the mind is like a compass. It can guide us either to the north of fulfillment or to the south of confusion. When attuned to our inner wisdom through practices like Kriya Yoga, it becomes an unparalleled ally in our spiritual journey. Meditation is fundamental in this harmonization process. When we sit in silence, observing the flow of thoughts, we begin to perceive their transient nature. It's like watching clouds in the sky. They come and go, but the sky remains ever unchanged. The crucial question is, what kinds of mental seeds are we planting daily? Thoughts of love, compassion, and gratitude create fertile ground for our evolution. On the other hand, doubts, fears, and worries can turn our minds into a barren field where nothing positive can flourish.
Extraordinary how each perspective illuminates different aspects of this issue. Krishnamurti shows us how the mind can be a river that nourishes or destroys, while Yogananda compares it to a compass that needs to be calibrated through meditation. I now realize that the mind is neither ally nor enemy by nature. It is our relationship with it that determines its role in our lives. As for you, I hope you become an ally of our channel and help us grow. Leave your like now, and let's take this enlightened content to more people. Thank you so much, dear. Continuing, another question that deeply touches our daily lives. Krishnamurti, is it possible to live a life without caring about the judgment of others? How can we find this freedom amid the social pressures we face?
Rubian, I believe this is an essential quest for our authenticity. Detachment from others' judgments is a liberating process, but it requires a deep understanding of our own motivations. It's like being in a forest. Instead of worrying about what others would say about your path, you begin to notice the beauty around you, the singing of the birds, the shine of the leaves, the freshness of the breeze. Often, our concern with others' opinions is rooted in fears and insecurities, the desire for belonging or the search for validation. These feelings imprison us in molds that do not reflect who we truly are. By cultivating inner honesty and humility, we develop a different relationship with these judgments. It's not that it becomes easy to ignore them, but our practice of self-understanding strengthens. Self-love and genuine acceptance naturally create a protection against destructive criticism.
Fascinating this perspective on our relationship with judgments. Yogananda, how do you see this possibility of living free from others' opinions?
You know, Rubian, this freedom is a journey that demands a profound understanding of ourselves. The judgment of others is often just a reflection of their own insecurities and limitations. Like the yogi in the Himalayan mountains who discovered that true freedom is not in the absence of criticism, but in the ability to remain centered regardless of them. This does not mean completely ignoring others' opinions. Sometimes there is wisdom in the advice we receive. The key is to develop discernment through meditation and reflection, learning to distinguish between constructive feedback and destructive judgments. Like a flower that blooms despite adversities, when we align with our essence, we find the strength to live authentically. It is an ongoing journey of self-knowledge, acceptance, and determination.
Impressive, these views. I understand that living free from judgments is not about completely ignoring opinions, but developing a wiser relationship with them while staying true to our essence. But now let's address a question that profoundly affects our daily relationships. Krishnamurti, how can we prevent our judgmental mind from labeling and judging the people around us all the time?
Rubian, this is a fascinating challenge that we all face. The mind has this tendency. It is natural to categorize and label everything, including people. It's as if we were obsessive photographers, always trying to frame and define each moment and each person within a specific border. To transcend this tendency, we need to cultivate a deep awareness of the present moment. When we become attentive observers of our own mental processes, we begin to notice these judgmental impulses as they arise. Imagine you are in a theater watching a play. Instead of getting emotionally involved with each scene, you maintain a distance that allows you to appreciate without getting lost in the story. Similarly, we can observe our judgmental thoughts without identifying with them. The key is to recognize that these judgments are merely automatic reactions, products of our conditioning and past experiences. By cultivating empathy and seeking to understand the experiences of others, we naturally free ourselves from the need to label. It is an invitation to see people in their entirety, not as mere labels created by our minds.
What a revealing perspective on our tendency to label. Yogananda, how can we overcome this deeply ingrained mental habit of judging others?
Look, Rubian, this judging mind is like a foggy mirror that distorts our perception of reality. Kriya Yoga teaches us that every person we encounter is a unique manifestation of divine consciousness, deserving to be seen beyond superficial appearances. Imagine that while meditating, you clean this internal mirror, allowing the true nature of people to reflect without distortions. In this space of clarity, judgments lose their power, as we begin to recognize the inner light that resides in every being. The practice of empathy and unconditional love is transformative. When we remember that everyone is a soul on their own journey of evolution, our perspective changes completely. Each encounter becomes an opportunity for mutual learning and growth. When you feel the impulse to judge, stop and ask yourself, what is the true essence of this person? What can I learn from this interaction? In this way, we transform the habit of judgment into a path of deeper understanding and connection.
Extraordinary how both perspectives show us complementary paths. While Krishnamurti invites us to be conscious observers of our judging mind, Yogananda reminds us of the divinity present in every being. I've learned that overcoming judgment is not just a matter of mental control, but of profound transformation in how we see and relate to others. And speaking of mind control, let me give you an amazing tip. Did you know it's very easy to get ahead of 99% of people, succeeding in everything you want for your life? I'll leave a link below in the description to a book that changed my view on various aspects of my mind, and that has been helping thousands of people find clarity and confidence to achieve their goals and dreams. Don't miss it. I'm sure you'll love it. Asterisk. Returning to our incredible conversation, we now arrive at a question that touches on a very human vulnerability. Krishnamurti, is the relentless search for others' approval inevitable in human nature, or can we overcome it?
Rubian, this need for external validation is like an invisible chain that binds us, making us believe that our worth depends on the gaze of others. It's interesting to observe how this quest for approval is deeply rooted in our way of existing and relating to the world. When we look deeper, we realize that this dependence is a subtle trap. It's like an actor who is so concerned with the audience's reaction that they forget to truly live their role. True freedom emerges when we begin to question this pattern. The path to overcoming this need involves developing an internal clarity about who we really are. It's a process of self-discovery where we learn to recognize when our actions are authentic and when they are merely attempts to please others. This journey requires courage to face the fear of rejection and a deep commitment to our inner truth. When we allow ourselves to be authentic, the need for approval naturally dissolves, giving way to a fuller and truer way of living.
What a liberating perspective. Yogananda, I would like to hear your view on this search for approval that seems so ingrained in us. Can we really free ourselves from it?
Rubian, this search for approval is part of our social nature, just as thirst is natural for someone who needs water. However, when this search becomes obsessive, we lose touch with our deeper essence. Self-knowledge is like an inner expedition. The deeper we dive, the more we discover our true nature, independent of external opinions. Through meditation and introspection, we can develop an internal center of gravity that keeps us balanced even amidst the storms of external judgments. This transformation is possible and liberating. When we connect with our spiritual essence, we begin to shine with our own light, without depending on others' recognition. It's like a star that doesn't need anyone's approval to keep shining, it simply is.
Very good. It's clear to me that liberation from this search does not lie in denying our social nature, but in finding a balance between our inner truth and our relationships with others. But let's keep exploring. A question that touches on something very subtle in our existence. Krishnamurti, is the power to be indifferent to others' judgment a sign of strength or an escape from reality?
Rubian, this question is more complex than it seems at first glance. What we call indifference can mask different inner states. It's like a water mirror. The surface may seem calm, but we need to dive deeper to understand what is really happening beneath. True strength does not lie in simply ignoring others, but in developing a mature understanding of ourselves. When we hide behind a mask of indifference, we may be merely escaping the necessary confrontation with our own vulnerability. Genuine self-knowledge requires honesty to face our inner truth. The crucial question is, does this indifference come from a place of maturity and self-understanding, or is it merely a defense mechanism to avoid pain? True freedom does not lie in ignoring the world around us, but in living authentically, without the need for approval directing our actions. It's about finding a balance between being receptive to constructive feedback and maintaining our inner integrity.
Yogananda, how do you see this fine line between inner strength and escape from reality when we talk about indifference to judgments?
You know, Rubian, it's like observing a bird in the sky. It doesn't ignore the wind, but learns to fly with it. True indifference to judgments, when born from self-knowledge and spiritual connection, is a transformative strength. When someone finds their inner essence, they naturally become less dependent on external opinions. It's not an escape, but a deep understanding of who we really are beyond appearances. However, we need to be careful not to confuse this inner freedom with a defense mechanism. If indifference comes from fear or insecurity, it becomes a subtle prison that distances us from our true growth. The key lies in the intention and depth of this indifference. The path of wisdom teaches us to transcend judgments without losing our humanity and ability to connect with others.
What enlightening views! While Krishnamurti makes us reflect on the authenticity of our indifference, Yogananda shows us how we can transcend judgments without losing our humanity. I've learned that true strength does not lie in building walls, but in developing deep roots that keep us grounded in the face of the storms of others' opinions. Let's explore a question that touches on the essence of our personal journey. Krishnamurti, is it possible to live a full life and walk towards the future without depending on others' approval?
Rubian, absolutely yes, and it starts with a deep honesty with oneself. You know, it's interesting to observe how many people live their lives like actors on a stage, always seeking applause from the audience. But true fullness arises when we free ourselves from this need for external validation. When we free ourselves from the desire for approval, we begin to explore our true essence without restraints. Imagine a bird that finally discovers it can fly on its own. It doesn't need anyone's opinion about its flight, it simply follows its nature. Dependence on approval creates a cycle of dissatisfaction and mediocrity, where your choices are based on how they will be seen by others. This not only compromises your authenticity, but also generates an internal conflict, distancing you from what you truly desire and what is genuinely meaningful in your life. A full life arises from accepting your own truth and the ability to live according to it, without worrying about others' gazes. It's a path that requires courage, but it's the most liberating choice we can make.
What a liberating perspective! Yogananda, how do you see this possibility of building a full life independent of others' approval?
Look, Rubian, this is one of the greatest achievements we can reach in our spiritual journey. Imagine yourself on a mountain, where each step towards the summit represents a decision you made for yourself. If you worry excessively about pleasing others, you end up constantly stopping to look back, wasting time and energy in a maze of insecurities. In my own journey, I discovered that true growth only happens when we free ourselves from the shackles of others' expectations. Meditation plays a fundamental role in this. It allows us to feel the divine presence within us, showing that the most important approval is the one that comes from the heart. By detaching ourselves from external voices, our soul is liberated to follow its dreams. Each person has a unique path, and the key is to learn to trust our intuition and the wisdom that already resides within us. This is how we achieve true fulfillment, by being true to who we really are.
Extraordinary how both perspectives show us paths to freedom. Krishnamurti brings us the metaphor of the bird that discovers its own flight, while Yogananda guides us through the journey of the inner mountain. I realize that true fulfillment is not about completely ignoring others, but about finding our own inner compass and following it with courage. Well, at this moment we come to a question that touches the essence of personal development. Krishnamurti, do you believe that self-knowledge is the key to freeing oneself from external judgment? Is this approach practical or overly utopian?
Rubian, self-knowledge is undoubtedly fundamental to this liberation. It's interesting to note how, when we know ourselves deeply, we begin to realize that many of the judgments we receive are merely reflections of others' insecurities and conditioning. Imagine a crystal clear spring. The clearer the water, the easier it is to see through it. Similarly, when we cultivate self-knowledge, our view of ourselves becomes clearer, allowing us to see external judgments for what they really are, opinions based on limited perceptions. A mind rooted in limiting beliefs often seeks external validation. However, when we reach a state of inner clarity, that need naturally dissolves. It's not utopia, it's a state we can cultivate through the constant practice of self-observation. The path of self-knowledge is deeply practical. It's like cultivating a garden. It requires daily dedication, but the fruits are real and tangible. When we understand our true nature, the opinions of others lose the weight they once had.
Yogananda, I would like to hear your perspective on how self-knowledge can free us from external judgments.
Rubian, self-knowledge is like a light that dispels the shadows of doubt and fear of others' judgment. When you connect with your essence, you begin to understand your deeper motivations, your strengths, and also your vulnerabilities. It's a transformative process that allows us to see external judgments as superficial waves in a deep ocean. They may stir the surface, but they do not alter the essential nature of the depths. This understanding is not utopian, but a practical path of personal evolution. Although it is a challenging journey, with mountains to climb and valleys to cross, each step brings us closer to our true nature. Self-knowledge allows us to live more authentically and fully, free from the shackles of others' opinions.
Interesting. From what I understand, self-knowledge is not a utopian escape, but a practical and transformative path to our liberation. But Krishnamurti, can the meditative practice really nullify the impact of external judgment and self-judgment in our lives?
Look, Rubian, meditation is not a magic wand that instantly makes the impact of judgments disappear, but it creates a precious space of clarity and understanding. It's like when you dive into deep waters, the deeper you go, the quieter and calmer the environment around you becomes. When we meditate regularly, we develop a sharper awareness of our mental and emotional patterns. We begin to notice that many of the judgments, both external and internal, are like bubbles rising to the surface. They appear, float for a moment, and then dissipate. With this new perspective, judgments lose their oppressive power. Meditation invites us to a practice of deep acceptance, where we can observe these critical voices without identifying with them. It's like sitting on a park bench, watching people pass by. You see the movement, but you don't need to engage with every story that goes by. The meditative practice helps us cultivate an attitude of compassionate curiosity towards ourselves and others. We do not eliminate judgment, but transcend its power over us, revealing a deeper dimension of being that remains untouched by these superficial fluctuations.
What an enlightening perspective on the power of meditation. Yogananda, how do you see the role of meditative practice in liberating us from these judgments that affect us so much?
Rubian, the meditative practice is like a lighthouse that illuminates our consciousness, gradually revealing a broader perspective on who we really are. When we dedicate ourselves to meditation, we begin to develop an inner clarity that allows us to see beyond appearances and superficial judgments. Over time, this practice teaches us to discern between what is truly meaningful and what are merely echoes of external expectations. It's like developing a natural filter that separates the essential from the transient in our experience. Meditation invites us on a journey of radiant authenticity, where we learn to be more compassionate with ourselves and others. It's not about building a barrier against judgments, but about developing such a deep understanding that they naturally lose their power over us.
Extraordinary how each perspective offers us a unique angle on this transformation. Krishnamurti shows us how meditation creates a space for serene observation, while Yogananda presents it as a beacon of inner clarity. I've learned that meditation is not an escape from judgments, but a powerful tool for developing a wiser relationship with them. Now we come to a profound and transformative question. Krishnamurti, upon reaching enlightenment or superconsciousness, can we finally free ourselves from this madness created by the mind?
Rubian, this is a fundamental question that touches the essence of our spiritual quest. Enlightenment is not simply a state of ecstasy or an escape from the complexities of life. It is a profound transformation in the way we perceive and experience reality. Imagine that your mind is like a dark room full of furniture. You constantly stumble and hurt yourself because you cannot see clearly. Enlightenment is like turning on the light in that room. Instantly, you see all the obstacles you've created for yourself through attachments, fears, and illusions. In this state of clarity, there is a natural liberation from the shackles of the past and future expectations. It's not that thoughts stop arising, but our relationship with them completely changes. It's like observing clouds in the sky. They keep passing, but we no longer identify with them. True freedom comes from this deep understanding, where the simplicity and beauty of life emerge naturally, effortlessly. It's not an escape from reality, but a waking up to what truly is.
What an enlightening analogy about the dark room. Krishnamurti, Yogananda, how do you see this possibility of liberation through enlightenment?
Look, Rubian, achieving superconsciousness is like waking up from a turbulent dream to the deeper reality of who we truly are. When this inner light reveals itself, all mental distortions begin to dissipate naturally. Think of a lake after a storm. Initially, the water is agitated and murky, but as the storm passes and the lake calms, the natural clarity of the water emerges. In the same way, through practices like Kriya Yoga, we can quiet the mental waves and reconnect with our true nature. Enlightenment reveals to us that we are much more than our fleeting thoughts and emotions. This realization brings a profound sense of peace and freedom, allowing us to navigate life with a serenity that comes from connecting with something much greater and more enduring.
Fascinating how these perspectives complement each other. While Krishnamurti shows us how enlightenment is like turning on the light in a dark room, Yogananda compares it to the calming of a lake after the storm. I realize that true liberation is not about eliminating the mind, but about transcending its limitations through a deeper understanding of our essential nature. Well, that's it. We've reached the end of a truly transformative conversation. The wisdom shared by Krishnamurti and Yogananda today has shown us profound paths to deal with our mind and the judgments that affect us so much. It's impressive how their perspectives complement each other and offer us practical tools for a freer and more conscious life. The journey we took today, exploring from the nature of the mind to the paths of liberation through self-knowledge and meditation, has shown us that it is possible to live more authentically and less controlled by external judgments. I want to express my deep gratitude to Krishnamurti and Yogananda for sharing such valuable insights with us. Their presence and wisdom have made this episode truly special, and I very much hope to have them again in future conversations. If you resonated with our discussion about the mind and its challenges, be sure to watch our video, The War Within You, The Power of Silence in Life Storms, where we explore how silence can be a powerful tool for finding peace amidst mental chaos. And if you're interested in freeing yourself from external judgment, I highly recommend our episode, Nobody Cares About What You Do, and That's Liberating, where Alan Watts and Osho show us how to transform this apparent indifference into a liberating force. If you are enjoying this type of content that brings ancestral wisdom to modern challenges, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We have many other equally transformative episodes waiting for you. Thank you for watching this far, and I wish you to be free from everything that takes away your peace.